My name is Jim, and we're going to be talking about the Festool CT26E today on
Kilimanjaro.
First off, Festool calls this a dust extractor. It's just a vacuum. It's nothing fancy. It's actually a little less fancy than your standard shop vac because it can't deal with liquids. It has a bag inside. There's no drain. There's nothing like that. So it's really only meant for dry sort of dust, either wood dust or spackle or stuff like that. So that out of the way, this is the CT26. That stands for 26 liters. That's the capacity of it. There's a bigger one, this is the 36, and there's a smaller one, there's the mini. They all have the same motor in them, so they're going to have the same amount of suction. That motor size is really dictated by the amount of the power that's coming out of the wall, right? So you have your cord here. You want to be able to plug a tool into this. You can't put too powerful a motor on here because then you won't be able to use any tools with it at the same time. On a single circuit, or you're a standard 15 amp breaker. So that kind of limits how powerful any vacuum can be, regardless of what the labels may say on them. So this one here has a very nice feature. Speaking of that, is on the front here, there's a little power port that you can plug any other tool into. Now it does say that that should be limited to 3.7 amps, but I've plugged every Festool into it without a problem, even the big routers and the Rotex sanders. And when you do that, when that tool fires up, the vacuum automatically starts. So that's super handy, very convenient. You don't have to worry about coming over and turning it on and off when you turn on the tool. The other things on the front of this, up here, there's a switch. You can turn this on manually. You can just have it off. Right now it's set to the auto section, so that's what I said. As it turns on, it'll go on auto. And then over here, there's an adjustable amount of suction. So generally for the bigger tools, the Rotex, the routers, things like that, you want it on the max suction. However, if you're using some of the little sanders, if you put on the max suction, it will suck it down to the part that you're working on too hard. You won't be able to move it, and it won't work very well. So you can turn down that suction, which can be very convenient, makes those little sanders work a lot better. Up here you may see there's like a dead panel here. That allows you to put a Bluetooth module in here. That way you can use it with some of the cordless tools. So if you have a cordless saw, you can still use it with the vacuum here if you put the Bluetooth module in here, and then it'll work with those without a problem. So up top here, we have, they call it kind of the hose garage. When you're moving this around, you can stick the hose in here and it'll wrap around the top here. And then on top of this, as is standard with Festool, there's these little locking tabs here, and you can slide in a sustainer on top of here, and then you can roll it all around wherever you want. Very convenient to, to have all your tools all stacked together and roll it onto the job site wherever you want, very easily. On the side here, there's these two big levers. That's how you change the bag. I'll show you how to do that in the middle. And then the best part about this is these big wheels in the back. So in the back it has two wheels. They can't rotate, they just go forward. And in the front there's two casters here. So you can swivel this around, move it around. Because it's got these big wheels though, it'll roll over cords very easily, roll over bumpy terrain or dirt or whatever. It doesn't get hung up and drag that around. It's super convenient. Around back here, we have the cord storage. So, it's very convenient. You wrap it with the cord here, and then there's little hooks that you can hook it on so it doesn't come unraveled as you're going. In the front, the last kind of feature of it is down at the bottom here, there's a brake. So if you push this down, it lifts the front casters up, and then it's pretty solid, doesn't roll around. And then you can just push down on that, and it rolls it off those. And then you can roll around some more as you want. Bags here, they all have bags in them. They're not just a filter that's on there. That lets them get the HEPA rating. So this might be a little different than some other vacuums that actually has a HEPA rating for the whole vacuum. So that means that the exhaust that's coming out of here, there's 99.97% less particles at the 0.3 micron or larger size that come out of this than going in this. So it's certified for that. That could be very important depending on what industry you're in. For me, it's not that big a deal, but it is nice to know that all that particulate is getting filtered out here, and the air that's coming out is very clean. So part of that system though is the bags. Now having bags is kind of a double-edged sword. It means that you have a replacement cost for them. It's not just a filter that you can rinse out, blow out with some air, and then you're good to go. You have to replace the bags every time. Now they do hold quite a bit, particularly if you're just using them for sawdust, but if you're using them for some of the tools that generate a whole lot of chips, like a router or a saw or something all the time, you're gonna go through those bags pretty quickly. So to change the bags, it's super simple. There's a lever here, there's one on the back side. You pull that, you lift that off, and then you can flip this lever up here, and you pull the bag out. Not too big a deal, very easy. And if you do it right, you don't get any dust anywhere. And it's very clean and easy, and you can just pop the new one right back in. So very convenient, not too big a deal when you do need to do it. You don't need to do it that frequently, like I said, unless you're using some of the tools that generate a lot more chips than kind of your typical sanders and things like that. A small shop vac that I want to compare how noisy it is compared with this one here. So this is an 8 amp shop vac. It uses about the same amount of power as this Festool one over here. So I've got a little decibel meter here. I'm going to hold it right above it, so it's going to be exaggerated a little because right next to it is obviously going to be a lot louder than, you know, where you would normally have it down on the ground. Your ears are pretty far away from it, but let's just see how that is, just to get a good comparison between the two. So I'll turn the Festool on right now. So that's about 73 decibels, and then we'll turn on this kind of generic shop vac version. It's actually a name brand shop vac version here. So that's 85 decibels. That's a big difference between the two of them. Decibels is a logarithmic scale, so a small difference in decibels is actually quite a large difference in air pressure. That being said, though, generally when you're using this, you're going to be using it with another tool, a sander or something like that, and that's likely to put out more noise than the vacuum itself. So it's not, you know, a perfect comparison, but it is nice that this is fairly quiet for a vacuum. This is the hose that comes with the vacuum. It's a 27mm hose. There is a larger diameter hose that's available if you're using it with something that really needs a lot of airflow, something like the miter saw, the Capex, something like that. Very convenient to have a bigger hose with that. It'll pull more air in through it. Doesn't make the vacuum any more powerful, but it does make it a lot less restrictive. Vacuum hoses, particularly with the kind of crinkles in them, they really drop the airflow as they go through them, so having a larger diameter hose really helps with that. It's an anti-static hose. As the sawdust flies through there, it generates a lot of static electricity, so that dissipates it. It means you're not going to get shocked. You're not going to get, you know, sparks going off this thing that might hurt other electronics or anything. So that's nice. I will say this is the older style hose. My CT26 here is a couple years old now. The newer style ones have a kind of fabric wrap that goes over the top of them. That's nice. This tends to get caught on things, particularly like the track for the track saw. It'll catch on, so having that overwrap is pretty nice now. A couple other changes that they've made here. The top, mine is kind of an older style top that has these tabs that slide in and out to lock in the sustainers. The newer ones have the kind of T-lock style. They both work fine. They're both easy to use. That's just kind of the newer style. It goes with the newer style sustainers. This one works fine with the newer style, and the newer style works fine with the older style sustainers. The other change that they've made is on the back here, these kind of tabs that wrap up the cord that goes at the back. On the newer ones, you can rotate them to be able to quickly pull off the extension cord. So that's pretty nice as well. The elephant in the room, and that's the price of this thing. This thing is $800. You know, Festools are notoriously expensive, but that's kind of ludicrous for a shop vac. I think that other shop vac I have, which sucks just as much as this one does, it was only like $40 or $50. So this is more than 10 times more expensive, and that's kind of a crazy amount. It is more convenient. The fact that it's quieter is super nice. The fact that it is HEPA certified means that it's going to be better for your lungs, particularly if you're doing a lot of sanding or other stuff that's going to generate a lot of small particulate. Being quieter is always better for your ears. I don't know anybody who uses, you know, ear protection when they're using a shop vac. You probably should be, but if you're using this one, it's going to be a little bit better for your ears. Now, of course, if the tool you're using is super loud, it doesn't really make a difference, but you know, it's still nice to have this quiet. If you're using a small sander or something, it's not going to make a huge racket. For the price, I'm kind of disappointed that the hose they give you here is just a kind of typical plastic hose. I really wish it had the power built in with it. Festool does sell a hose that is wrapped with an extension cord. It's got this really nice fabric wrap on it. You know, can unzip to get the extension cord out. Super nice, but it's also $300, which is just crazy for a hose and an extension cord. I wish for the price of this they had figured out a way to include the power with the hose. That's something that I'm always having difficulty with. The cord gets tangled around the hose, and then, you know, you can't pull it out the full extension. It's just a pain. For the price, I really wish they had included that. Yeah, there's a bunch of other little convenience things. Being able to turn it on and off, it's going to save you time over the long haul. If you're using this every day, having the handle and being able to wheel it in and out, super easy. It's going to be convenient. It's one of those things that if you're only using it every once in a while, it's certainly not worth spending the time for. But if you're going to use this every day for the next 20 years, yeah, it's probably worth spending a little bit of extra money. Have a nicer tool, make your life a little easier every day. It's going to add up over the long term. So that's all I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.